Be prepared. This week is not what it looks like. It arrives quietly. Soft days, tired thoughts, familiar skies. But beneath that stillness, something is shifting. This isn't just the last phase of the moon. It's the moment where your soul is being reset without permission. And the people who don't notice it will wake up weeks from now wondering why everything feels off, why their clarity vanished, why their path blurred, why their emotions unraveled. What if I told you the biggest twist of the lunar cycle isn't what you feel during the full moon, but what happens right after you stop paying attention? Because right now, the moon is silently peeling open your energetic field, not to break you, but to drain what no longer belongs. If you've been feeling strange lately, foggy, disconnected, restless for no reason, you're not off track. You're being pulled deeper into your own recalibration. And what happens this week might not look dramatic, but it will change what you're able to carry into June. So stay close. There's something the moon hasn't revealed yet, and when it does, you won't be able to unsee it. You might think the shift already happened, that the full moon was the peak, that the emotional waves have passed. But you're wrong, and that's exactly how the moon wanted it. Because what's happening right now isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it isn't obvious, it's strategic, and it's already in motion. The energy this week is not building, it's coiling. From the outside, it looks still. The calendar says it's just another quiet descent into the new moon. But spiritually, vibrationally, the field is tightening. And those who are sensitive can feel it. A strange weight behind your thoughts. A slow disconnection from people, conversations, even your own voice. Sleep that doesn't recharge. Stillness that feels hollow. And a low, quiet pressure in your chest that you can't explain. That's not tiredness. It's a recalibration in progress. The moon isn't resetting you, it's rewriting your access to focus, to desire, to memory, to truth. And if you're not paying attention, this shift will pass unnoticed until it's too late. Because this isn't a surface update, it's an energetic trapdoor, one that opens beneath your normal routine, and suddenly everything feels off. Plans dissolve, people retreat, and your sense of identity, of direction, starts to blur. Have you felt it? The way your priorities are losing shape? The way your words don't land like they used to? The way certain emotions are circling back, uninvited, unresolved? This isn't regression. This is the moon testing what's still unresolved inside you. Because just before a system upgrades, it pulls forward everything that hasn't been faced. And you're not being punished. You're being pressed. Pressed into honesty, into stillness, into presence. There's a reason you've been withdrawing lately. Not because you're broken, but because you're being extracted from frequencies that no longer match your next season. From people who unconsciously keep you small. From timelines that collapse the moment you stop trying to hold them up. And now, as this week unfolds, you're going to feel it intensify. Not as noise, but as emptiness. A clean, echoing silence where your old patterns used to live. That's not a void. That's your field clearing. That's the moment before a new structure arrives. So if you're spacing out more than usual, forgetting why you walked into the room, feeling disconnected from goals you swore mattered, that's the shift. That's the moon. That's your system letting go before it tells you what's next. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't panic if clarity doesn't arrive on schedule. This week isn't designed to inspire, it's designed to strip, to take everything you thought you needed and leave you with what's actually true. This is the moment most people miss, not because it's hidden, but because they're too busy trying to feel normal again. But you're not supposed to feel normal right now. You're supposed to feel new, unanchored, undefined, like something inside you is waiting for instructions that haven't arrived yet. And that's exactly where you're meant to be. Stay there. The instructions are coming. But they won't be written in thought. They'll be written in what remains when everything else falls away. There's a reason you've been quieter, less drawn to noise, less eager to respond. And not because you stopped caring, but because something in you was quietly closing the old doors. What if your silence wasn't a sign of detachment, but the first evidence that your system was shifting? This past year, maybe even longer, has felt like a strange pause. Not a rest, not exactly. More like a subtle, energetic retreat, as if life was still happening around you, but you were being held behind the veil. And maybe you couldn't explain it. Maybe you kept telling yourself, "I'll come back when I feel ready." But the readiness never quite arrived, because the truth is, you were never meant to return to who you were. You weren't just pulling back. You were being recalled inward, detached from frequencies that no longer fit, unhooked from identities you didn't even know you'd outgrown. Did you feel it? That moment when small talk started to drain you faster than silence ever could? That quiet ache of watching old friendships fade without a fight? You weren't breaking down. You were being separated from the distractions that blurred your inner voice. And now, as the moon enters this final stretch before its reset, the energy begins to open again. Not with clarity, not with certainty, but with invitation. There's a softness returning, a subtle inner nudge to speak again, to move again, to reconnect, not as a performance, but as your new self. You may notice it in the smallest ways. A desire to check in with someone you hadn't thought about in weeks. An unexpected pull to share what you've been hiding. Or the simple, unexplainable urge to be seen, even if you still feel unfinished. That pull isn't just emotional, it's energetic. It's your field preparing for re-entry. Your soul stepping out from the cave it's been healing in. But the moon isn't pushing you into the light to perform. It's inviting you to feel your way into resonance. To ask, moment by moment, does this still feel true for me? Do I want to reconnect? Or am I just afraid of staying behind? Because here's the hidden truth. The isolation wasn't a punishment. It was activation, a reset of your emotional bandwidth, a subtle detox from the chaos you once called connection. You weren't meant to stay disconnected forever, but you were meant to remember what it feels like to be with yourself without needing an audience. And now, as the moon prepares to shift your timeline, it's asking you to pay attention to what returns. Because not everything that comes back is meant to stay. Some things are simply echoes, not invitations. Some people will reappear not because they belong, but because they sense your light is different now. And they want access to the version of you that's already gone. This is the moment where you hold your boundary with grace, not out of defense, but out of recognition. You've changed. And some dynamics can't come with you into the next chapter without distorting your clarity. So take your time. Let the new rhythm emerge. Speak only when it feels aligned. Rebuild slowly. And if it feels strange to reconnect, honor that too. Because what's rising now is not a return, it's a rebirth. And you don't owe anyone your softness if it costs your peace. This week will test your readiness to re-engage, not as the person you were, but as the one who learned how to hear themselves in the silence. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're becoming. And the world you step back into won't recognize you at first, but it will rearrange around your frequency if you let it. Something subtle is tugging at your chest this week. It might feel like longing, a quiet ache, a whisper in your emotional body that says, go back, reach out, reconnect. But before you move, pause. Because this isn't just emotion, it's testing. And the moon knows exactly where your soft spots are. Around this point in the cycle, Venus enters the picture. From the outside, this alignment looks beautiful, poetic even. But energetically, it's one of the most deceptive frequencies in the sky. Because it doesn't bring love. It brings exposure. This isn't the kind of connection that grounds you. It's the kind that tempts you, that pokes your wounds and dresses them in romance, that calls out to your loneliness and names it fate. Have you felt it? That magnetic pull towards someone you know isn't right for you, but still lives somewhere in your system. That sudden craving to open old messages, revisit memories, or post something just to see who's watching. This isn't you regressing. It's your emotional field reacting to a mirror. Because this transit with Venus isn't about who or what you want. It's about what your energy still believes it needs to feel complete. And this week, it shows you, not gently, not logically, but through raw impulse. You might catch yourself fantasizing about being seen again, remembering only the warmth, never the wound, or chasing emotional high notes just to silence the stillness that's been building. And here's the truth. It's not about them. It never was. That person, that craving, that fleeting desire, it's just a symbol, a projection, a container for the part of you that still feels incomplete. Can you recognize when desire isn't rooted in clarity, but in escape? Can you tell the difference between something that feeds your wholeness and something that pulls at your need to be needed? This week is full of emotional false signals. They don't lie, but they don't always tell the whole truth either. They highlight your open channels, but only to ask you if you're ready to seal them. You may feel an intense connection with someone out of nowhere. You may feel like reaching out to an ex. You may be tempted to confess something that's been sitting inside you for a long time. But ask yourself, is this love? Or is this the part of me that still fears being alone with my truth? Am I chasing clarity? Or a familiar pattern dressed in a new outfit? Because Venus doesn't only reveal love, she reveals your relationship to need. And the moon, in this final descent, wraps that exposure in silence, so it echoes louder. There's nothing wrong with craving closeness, but closeness at the cost of integrity is not connection, it's collapse. This is a moment to get honest, to let the pull rise. And instead of following it blindly, ask it why it's here, what it's feeding, what it's trying to soothe. Because if you can sit in the ache without rushing to fix it, you might just realize you don't miss them. You miss the version of yourself you were when you didn't know your worth yet. And that's the illusion. Desire isn't always telling you what you want. Sometimes it's pointing out what you're still healing. This isn't a rejection of love. It's a clarification of what love actually is, what it sounds like in your nervous system, what it feels like when it lands gently, not urgently. Let this week show you what still pulls at you, not so you can chase it, but so you can disarm it. You don't need to abandon your heart to protect yourself. You just need to recognize when it's reaching towards something that never really held you. And if you feel like withdrawing, don't judge it. Your system may be choosing alignment over attachment, and that is love. The moon is getting closer, not just astronomically, but energetically. And if you're sensitive, you've already started to feel the pressure. Not loud, not sharp, but heavy, like a silent weight pressing against your spirit from the inside. This week, something strange is happening. The moon is simultaneously nearing both the Earth and the Sun, perigee and perihelion, the closest gravitational points. And you're the emotional landscape it's pulling through. This isn't symbolic. It's physical. And you can feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the strange fog behind your thoughts, in the way emotions you thought were resolved keep circling back like they forgot to finish something. Have you noticed it? That deep restlessness just beneath your skin. The way certain memories are resurfacing with more weight than they should carry. This isn't regression. It's the moon wringing out your field. Everything unprocessed, unspoken, unhealed is rising. Not to punish you, to purge you. Think of it like emotional gravity. As the moon draws closer, it stirs the tides in your energetic body. Suddenly, old fears return in dreams. Random flashes of guilt, longings for places that never felt like home. But for some reason, still echo inside you. You might feel dehydrated no matter how much water you drink. You might wake up at 3:33 a.m. without explanation, or catch yourself staring into space, feeling like something's off, but can't name what. That's not confusion, that's compression. You're being pressed into presence. And anything that was hiding beneath the surface, even if it was quiet, is now being pulled through your emotional body to be seen, felt, and let go. And here's the strange part. It may not feel like pain. It may just feel like slowness, like everything takes more energy than it should. Like joy is harder to access, but sorrow isn't quite sharp either. It's a dull hum, a frequency reboot. What part of you are you still trying to ignore? What feeling are you hoping will just pass if you don't name it? This is the moon's version of a detox, a psychic cleanse. Not just for this week, but for the version of you that's stepping into June. Because the new moon that's coming isn't gentle. It won't wait for you to catch up. It's going to require space. And that means clearing what no longer fits. And here's the truth you may not want to hear. Some of what's being pulled out of you isn't just emotion. It's identity, behaviors, beliefs, attachments you thought you needed to survive. You might wake up one morning this week and wonder, why don't I care about that thing anymore? Or why do I feel so far away from the version of me that used to love this? Because you are far. You've moved. Energetically, you're no longer orbiting what once defined you. But your body is just now catching up. And that lag, that gap between who you were and who you're becoming is what creates the emotional distortion. Let it stretch, let it breathe. Let the moon pull out what your ego wants to keep hidden. This is not a breakdown. This is energetic release. You don't need to understand every emotion to honor its exit. You don't need to track where every thought came from to let it go. This is the week where the most powerful thing you can do is let the moon do her work. Stop labeling your tiredness as failure. Stop trying to rush back to clarity. You are not behind. You are beneath. Beneath the surface. Beneath the mask. Beneath the version of you that the world thought was real. And from down here, in the stillness, you're about to meet something honest, something raw, something yours. Everyone talks about the new moon as if it's a fresh start, a clean slate, a moment to write intentions, manifest goals, visualize the future. But what if this one feels hollow? This isn't your typical new moon. It doesn't land with inspiration. It arrives like a cleared out room, silent, cold, waiting. And that waiting, that stillness, is the real message. Right now, the moon is slipping into its dark phase. Not symbolic darkness, actual energetic withdrawal. It's pulling its light inward, and in doing so, it's creating an emptiness that echoes. Have you felt it? That strange silence in your chest where your certainty used to be? The way you can't quite name what you want, only what you no longer care about. This isn't confusion. It's the absence of noise. The moon is not offering you clarity yet. She's not here to answer your questions. She's creating space so the right ones can finally be asked. And most people won't understand this part of the cycle because the stillness feels too much like being lost, too much like nothing is happening. But that's the illusion. You're not lost. You're being emptied, not because there's nothing ahead, but because what's ahead can't land until what's behind is released. This is where your nervous system quiets, where your ego loses signal, where all the planning, pushing, tracking, scripting dissolves, and what's left. That's what the moon is waiting for you to hear. Are you brave enough to sit in this emptiness without reaching for distraction? Can you hold the space between the old path closing and the new one not yet revealed? Because here's the twist. This moon isn't passive. It's listening. Not to what you say out loud, but to what your energy is broadcasting in silence. The thoughts you repeat when you think no one's watching. The story you still tell yourself when you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. This week, those patterns get amplified, not to punish you, but to surface the residue still lingering in your field. The moon is a filter right now. Not everything you want will pass through, only what's aligned with who you're actually becoming, not who you've been performing as. So, if you've been trying to script your next step, but nothing sticks, if you've been meditating, journaling, manifesting, but it all feels flat, that's not failure. That's feedback. The old tools don't work here. This isn't a portal for progress. It's a vacuum, designed to clear what's blocking the real path forward. And sometimes, that vacuum shows up as apathy, as brain fog, as the uncomfortable sense that you don't know what to care about anymore. But what if that's the upgrade? What if the reason you don't feel motivated right now is because you're finally done chasing things that weren't meant for you? This new moon doesn't bring answers. It brings empty space, and that's sacred. Because in a world obsessed with clarity, the real power is in surrendering to the parts of the journey where you don't know. What if this silence is actually a reset of your intuition? What if the version of you that used to know what to do was still making decisions out of fear? And now the moon is asking for something else. Not movement, not performance, just truth. Unfiltered, unspoken, unforced. Let the stillness stretch. Let the blank page breathe. Stop trying to write the next chapter before you've honored the end of the last one. Because this new moon is not a door. It's the space in front of the door, where you take your last breath before stepping through, where your body pauses and your soul listens for instructions that only arrive in silence. If you're not feeling clarity this week, good. It means the process is working. You're being stripped of false certainty. So the real knowing can come later, not from the mind, but from alignment. And when it does, you'll recognize it not by how loud it is, but by how still you'll be when it arrives. You've made it through the quiet, through the fog, through the strange stillness that wrapped itself around this week like a cocoon of questions. But what happens next won't feel like stillness at all, because the silence wasn't the end. It was the compression before the surge. And that surge, it has a name. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, of truth, of uncontainable revelation, now colliding with the freshly reset energy of the moon. And when that contact happens, something inside you is going to shift, whether you're ready or not. Jupiter doesn't whisper, it amplifies. Whatever's been hiding, it pulls it out. Whatever's been avoided, it brings it to the surface, not with delicacy, but with force. You may feel a rush of emotion, or the sudden urge to speak something you've been holding back for weeks, even months. You may feel exposed, overpowered, cracked open. Have you felt something building behind your eyes lately? A truth you haven't said out loud, not even to yourself? That's what's coming. And Jupiter doesn't care how prepared you are, because this isn't about readiness, it's about realness. This final energetic twist isn't about new insight, it's about emotional volume. You'll feel it in your chest, in your throat, in your reactions, like something that was too big to fit inside your silence is suddenly demanding release. And for many, this moment brings contradiction, the desire to scream, and the fear of being heard. The need to run and the ache to stay. The truth rising and the ego panicking. What if the thing you've been avoiding is the very thing that unlocks your freedom? What if the version of you that's been quiet this whole time is about to speak? Jupiter shakes loose the emotional dust that the moon couldn't clear. So don't be surprised if you cry over something small, or feel a wave of anger that doesn't have a clear target. This isn't drama, it's discharge. Old energy exiting through intensity. So your system doesn't have to carry it anymore. And this isn't just internal. Watch how people around you start acting differently. Sudden confessions, strange emotional reactions, unexpected apologies, or confrontations. The expansion isn't happening in isolation. It's leaking into timelines. And if your field is still vibrating from what the moon pulled up, Jupiter will magnify it. This is the point where distractions become dangerous, where you might feel the urge to binge, scroll, reach out, retreat, just to not feel. But don't numb it. Let it rise. Because what's rising is you. The raw you, the one that can no longer pretend, the one that doesn't fit inside the masks, the one that's been waiting for the pressure to finally be too much. So the shift becomes non-negotiable. Ask yourself, what am I finally ready to say, even if it shakes everything? What truth inside me is too big to keep living small? Because this week wasn't designed to give you peace. It was designed to show you what's been blocking it. And now that the stillness has passed, Jupiter's going to show you what happens when silence has no more room to hold what's been screaming beneath the surface. This is the breaking open, not in chaos, but in clarity that erupts like a wave. And yes, it might feel like too much, but only because you've been carrying too much for too long. So when it hits, breathe. Don't run, don't deflect, let it move through you. Because what erupts this week was never meant to be contained. It was meant to be released. And once it's out, once the fire burns away the noise, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a while. Space. Not just around you, but inside you. Enough space to hold something real, something new, something finally aligned. The energy this week wasn't meant to comfort you. It was meant to awaken you, to pull the curtain back on your own cycles, to remind you that silence isn't the end of your clarity. It's where your clarity is born. And if you've been feeling cracked open, foggy, emotional, uncertain, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're tuning to something deeper, to something more honest, to the version of you that doesn't chase, because she finally knows she's home in her own frequency. So tell me, what part of you are you finally ready to release? Drop it in the comments, name it, let it go, even if it's just a word, a feeling, a symbol only you understand. Because sometimes that's all it takes to shift the signal. One intention, one small declaration. I'm done carrying this.